Can anybody hear me? Oh, there, I can hear me now. Can you hear me now? Yeah, right, okay. We're just going to get started. We've got the blue screen of death. Have we got any IT guys in the house? Because the computer's having a bit of an issue up at the back, but we might hopefully get that to kickstart. So, welcome everybody to the book launch for A New Hope. This is it. Here's unfortunately, only 4 of our authors, because sadly, Will had a little COVID test this morning and can't make it. So we're sending lots of love his way, and hopefully, if we actually get to be live on YouTube, which we will possibly shortly, because it was set for 7, and hopefully that will start, he can actually watch us on there. So what we have is Will's poster of his book cover there, sitting on the chair, where we'll just imagine that he's sitting there beside you, James. So, okay. So for those of you who don't know, my name's Macleod. This is Sinclair, who's decided not to come up on the stage. The man who actually makes all the things happen is Sinclair, my husband. And together we work and help writers to produce their books. We've also got some of our authors actually in the hall with us tonight. But this is about Callum's legacy. And Callum is our son, who sadly died when he was just short of 13 years old from meningitis. Callum was the most wonderful, friendly, enthusiastic young man who just loved to have people around him. And he's actually the reason that our business exists, because if it wasn't from Callum passing away, I don't think Sinclair would actually ever have written and finished his first book, which was The Reluctant Detective, that led us on to where we are now, almost 11 years later of writing. And throughout the work that we've done with writers, we've always kind of kept Callum as part of our business. He's always been there. So we have done a couple of things in the past where we had a book competition and people submitted entries and won something. We had a huge ball for his 21st and someone else got a prize. But we wanted to do something that was a bit more than just about the books. And that's where the idea for Callum's legacy came along. And for us, Callum's legacy is so much more than just these 4 young people, and 5 if we count Will, actually getting their stories out. It was about bringing these young people together in friendship, to encourage them, to support them, and help them to really to develop their skills as a writer, but also just to think about what's possible in terms of getting a story out, about being an entrepreneur, learning about publishing and supporting each other. It was, 3 years ago that we had the thought of Callum's legacy. We actually got them all together in September 2019, so it's taken a bit of a time. Unfortunately, a certain thing called COVID came along and kind of interrupted our plans, because we were originally meeting every month, a couple of times a month, where we got everybody together and we were learning and developing and having fun, and then we had to kind of go online. So I'm really proud that the fact that these young folk have stuck with it, because going on Zoom and keeping in touch with each other and doing all that they have done to be friends to each other and be really kind to each other takes a lot. It takes a lot of commitment. And so I think that's the main thing I would say, first of all, is that I'm so proud of you all. And it's been an absolute joy to work with each of you. So who we have on here, we have Will at the stage with with his poster of the Sphinx. We've got James, James is going to show us his book cover there of The Vengeance of King Martin, and we're going to hear from each of them later. We've got Neve McRavey with The Flames of the Past. We've got Emma Taylor, and Emma's The Flight of the Ladybird. And then we have Gabriel Gontor sitting here at the end, and it is The Dragon's Blood. And that's the stories that they've actually come up with, that we've supported them with. But there's a few other people that I want to say thanks to that have actually helped us. And that's the authors who have actually worked with us and published books with us. It wouldn't have been possible without all of you, because when they've paid us money, we've taken some of that money and actually helped to fund the work that we've done with Callum's legacy. We've also got a team of mentors who help support us as well. There was Claire Duffy, Caroline Johnston, Eddie Doody, and Claire Miller, who's in the hall tonight as well. I want to thank Q and Review because they were the charity that actually allowed us to use their premises where we used to meet on a Saturday morning and a Tuesday evening. There was a lot of people who are actually also here who helped donate some cash and laptops for us to use, including Graham Forsyth, Ian Pilbeam, Robert and Jane Melvin, Eddie Doody and Caroline Johnson. And we need a special thank you to Jane for feeding us, and especially with the cakes. Because a certain gentleman at the end here absolutely loved them. We got big smiles out of him for the cakes. We also want to say thank you to Anne Roberts, who's in the hall, for giving up her time and for supporting the group when she was able to come through and help us. And to Helen Cochrane for helping us with the illustrations. She came and did some time with us with illustrations. Anne McIntosh from Business Gateway in Eastern Bartonshire, who supported and encouraged us as well. And Alistair Curry for the design of Callum's Legacy logo. And also just for tonight, I would say thank you to my friends who've helped actually just check people in at the back and welcome people to come along. And to everybody connected with the church, it's been really good. Just come in, have a seat, you're fine. Yeah. So it's all right, just come in and have a seat, we're fine. There we go. And there's a special mention that we want to do. We've dedicated the book both to Calum and also to Eddie, because Eddie Doody, who was a stalwart of our indie authors group, sadly passed away very suddenly last year. And he's missed terribly. And he was a great friend to us all. So we also just want to give a big shout out to him and thank him for all that he did for us. So here we are, on to the chat. We see we've got, here we are, by sheer wonder we have, yay, we've now got a backdrop that we can see as well. So the format for this evening was, I really wanted for you to hear from these wonderful young people about their stories, about their journey with us, creating their books. So we're going to ask them all some questions, and then they're going to do a little bit of a reading from their stories. Everybody's going, yeah. If anybody gets too panicky, it's okay. Do you know what? We'll read it for you. So I wonder if we could start the evening, because it should have been, I think Will's folks actually here now. Yeah. We're so sorry that Will couldn't make it. It's so sad for us. But we actually managed earlier today to do an interview with him and record it so that we could actually have him here in presence if he wasn't here directly. And I wonder, could we actually cue that up, and we'll start with watching what? Hopefully. Oh, here we are. Hi, so here we are. I'm Kim Macleod, and we have the very lovely Will Maslen. Hello, Will.
Hello, I'm so sorry I couldn't make it tonight.
Oh, I know, it's just been one of those COVID days, I'm afraid. So here we are, decided to do a quick interview online so that we could actually just show this to the audience tonight. So you can give everybody a wave, and just say like, hello. And hopefully we might actually manage to get you to kind of tune in, and we might get a chance to see everybody tonight. We'll wait and see, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So what I want to do is talk to you about A New Hope. So well done. I mean, it's been amazing to kind of work with you through this. So tell us a little bit then about the Sphinx, and what is the story about?
So it's basically it's about it's fairly simple in the premise. It's a restless young man encounters a sphinx in a museum, and she convinces him to run away with her.
As you do, you know, that's an everyday story of walking into a museum.
Weekday afternoon.
So what about how did you come up with this idea? Where did the inspiration for it come from?
So it kind of partially came from me. I've kind of been I've got a wee toddler I look after sometimes, and I take her a lot to Kelvin Grove Museum, and I get frustrated a lot of the time because you notice a lot of the artifacts are like they'll have a wee description, but there's not actually much about where they came from or who has them, and some of them are only like 50 years old, so the people who made them could still be around, and there's this sense of like, you hear a lot about like museum pieces kind of being uprooted from their historical context and from the people who kind of are connected to them, and I was kind of daydreaming a bit about what would happen if a museum piece kind of took charge of its own fate, in a sense, in response to that, and kind of went back to find where it had kind of come from, because there's a kind of a giving it a kind of autonomy, I guess, over its own fate, which is kind of how the Sphinx and the character of the Sphinx and that kind of came about, this kind of defiant museum piece, I guess.
Yeah, and I love it. I think it's great how it evolves as well, and the story weaves around there. So
it really did it went kind of off the rails after that. So yeah, definitely.
So what about Adam then? You know, what I mean, is Adam inspired by, you know, is he an amalgamation of anybody you know? I mean, that's all nothing with characters, or is he just a kind of completely made up sort of person?
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of an amalgamation. I wanted to make him like a really like kind of cookie cutter protagonist. He's like your absolute basic kind of what people would kind of consider normal, or that's kind of how he started out, and I think it's something he's trying quite hard to put across as well. I kind of wanted just some guy kind of protagonist, if that makes sense, like someone, especially because the Sphinx is so strange and kind of out there. I felt like it would be good if she bounced off someone who was kind of completely, almost like a bit of a like Arthur Dent in Hitchhiker's Guide, that kind of thing, like so that's kind of how he came about. But he developed kind of a personality of his own outside of that as well. So
yeah, because the two of them then kind of, you know, spark off each other. That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, so they wound up having like a lot of the story I struggled to keep it on an actual track of story because they kept on having so much back and forth. It got kind of tricky to keep them going.
But you did a good job. You know, you definitely did. You did a good job. So, do you think the story were you writing the story, or was it inspired somewhere else and kind of flows through you? Because often writers will talk about that.
Yeah, I definitely think it was kind of a mixture of the two. Like, I definitely had an idea of where I wanted the story to go, and how I wanted it to end. But there was things like, there's a bit where I have Adam hiding in a cupboard, and I knew he needed to get back out the cupboard again, and I hadn't really thought about it much. And then when I actually came to writing him getting back out the cupboard, he didn't want to go out because he was scared. And I kind of spent like ages trying to figure out how I talked this man into getting out of this cupboard. And it was like the story was kind of still coming through me, but the characters definitely started coming from somewhere else, I think, at some point. They definitely took on a life of their own.
Yep. And thankfully, those who are you've yet to read the story, you will be relieved to know he did come out the cupboard. But they're going to have to get the book so they can read the story to find out actually what happens. Then we're not going to give too many spoilers away. So have you got plans for more stories or more writing?
Yes, and I'm always writing more in general. But currently, I'm actually working on a long-term project with my partner to produce. Hopefully what will be a comic series amongst other things. So I've got a few things kicking about, and I'm always going to be writing.
That's good. That's what we like to hear. Encourage you to keep going because you've definitely got some talent there, and we'd love to see more stuff from you in the future. That would be awesome.
And all your guys' encouragement has been amazing, like genuinely amazing.
So I suppose that just brings us to what has it been like for you to be part of Callum's legacy?
Like, absolutely wonderful. I've been meaning to say, like, the people have been like fantastic. Like, I think obviously it's kind of what it's all been all about, like bringing people together and stuff, but like meeting everyone and like Gabriel's vision is genuinely beautiful. He's got a beautiful imagination, and James, I'm pretty certain, has invented a new genre. His narrative style is so unique and so charming and so interesting. Emma's poems are so lovely. They genuinely have, I think, that they hurt and they heal. They're gorgeous. They genuinely take my breath away. And Neve, I feel like her enthusiasm has kept the whole thing going and is present in her work. Her enthusiasm and her fire are amazing. And of course, you and Sinclair working so hard to bring the whole thing together has been awe-inspiring. And everyone else's kindness, the food and the donations and the people coming in and teaching us about the illustrations and this kind of thing. It's been genuinely so lovely to see, and it's so nice to see people coming together over a singular cause like this one, and so much joy coming from something like Callum's legacy is genuinely beautiful, like, to witness.
That's great. That's what we hoped way back at the start. We've had lots of hiccups along the way. Unfortunately, things like COVID, just who knew? But what I say is congratulations, so well. It's been an absolute joy. We will get back in person hopefully soon, and get together with everybody again. I'm so sorry that you couldn't be with us tonight for this, but I know it's so sad. But what we want to do is just finish off with you, just going to read a little bit of the Sphinx for us then.
So are you wanting just from the first chapter?
Yeah, that would be good if you can. Yeah, if you can.
So, chapter 1. Adam had been stretching out the time it took him to enter his flat from his office each day for a few weeks by that point. Generally, this meant following the cluster of his colleagues down to the pub round the corner, or wandering around the scum-covered pond a little further down the road, or standing in the newsagent staring into the freezer until he thought of something to buy. Sometimes it was a combination of all three. Generally, whatever he did usually, it certainly came as a surprise to him when, one grey Tuesday, he found himself in the cold, echoing halls of the local museum. He had never been overly interested in museums. The stale, papery smell of old taxidermy and stone was sharply familiar and made him think of his long, dull, embarrassed school days as he pushed open the heavy wood poly paneling of the door. The light inside was dim. His feet were sore and he could just as easily, so he kept telling himself, turn around and head for his usual evening drink. But somehow, there he was all the same, letting the door swing shut and echo in a whisper through the quiet stone entrance hall. The building had always been a museum, erected in more profitable times. Its grand arched halls now seemed to swallow light as well as many of its own exhibitions. Warm, dusty shadows rested over twisting marble statues, frozen insects, warped and gaping mammals leaking sawdust, pottery and lightning bolts of plaster down their ancient sides. Adam vaguely recalled hearing talk of the museum trying to raise funds to stay open. Clearly, so far, it had successfully clung to life, though he had heard little of it since. He paused at a display of ornate globes, feeling awkward at how loudly his stiff shoes echoed on the tiles. In the dim orange light, the globes sat like plump cantaloupes. He peered down at the sea serpents churning up half-imagined seas. Adam couldn't help but think the little plastic sign jutting out from beneath the display didn't tell him much, just the year the globes were made, which was painted in swirling letters on each base anyway, and a few brief sentences which seemed to only describe what they had on them. There were colourful lettering beneath these that suggested you try and point out a few countries you recognized. He assumed it was aimed at children. Adam looked briefly around him. A bored-looking attendee in her late 50s leant against the entranceway, and an old man in a raindrop-studded tweed cap was wandering absent-mindedly by the oil paintings along the far wall. It was hard to imagine children coming here. Hard to imagine anyone, really. Once again, he thought of turning around and heading for the pub. The dull monotony that came with talking to people who didn't quite care enough to lead the conversation, but had no interest in taking it further. It wasn't a huge leap from the half-hearted information laid out for him on the museum's little plaque. His eyes continued to wander, coming to rest on a large yellow banner above a set of closed double doors to his right. Visiting us from London, unlock the secrets of the Ionian Sphinx. Adam checked his watch. He figured this place would be closing soon, but he might as well take a peek. As if he didn't feel silly enough, his heart picked up a strange pace as he headed down towards the sign. He switched the hand that held his briefcase and shouldered open the door and onto a much smaller room than the one behind him. Weather-worn pillars and hunks of carved stone lurked close to the ground beneath a set of tall arched windows. A glass display case or two showed painfully delicate-looking licks of silver and gold, shards of jewelry, and the tools of their long-dead crafters. In the center of the room, the stone haunches of a lion jutted. Adam slowly walked around to the head of the Sphinx. She was hewn in crisp, clean, curving lines out of a light, sandy stone. Wings were folded close to her body at each side. Her face was nestled in what seemed to be a mane of feathers. It was a strange face. Her head was tilted backwards slightly, and her eyes were serenely closed, as if she was basking in the sun. A gentle smile tweaked the corner of her lips. She lay with her great paws stretched out in front of her. Life-sized, Adam thought to himself, but then there was nothing for her to be the life-size version of. The sign beside her read that she'd been discovered on an island in the Ionian Sea that spent the majority of time largely submerged in water. Few other signs of life were on the island, and the leading theory was that the Sphinx had once been a part of a cargo that had found itself beached there by some happenstance. Her appearance and whatever technique had been used to make her match no specific culture that was known of. Like the great Egyptian Sphinx, she had wings and a lion's body, and her mane might at certain angles resemble a Nemes headdress, like those seen on depictions of pharaohs, but she was clearly female despite her feathery mane, which aligned more, the sign explained, with the Greek interpretation. Around the Sphinx, other shipwrecked and curious items had been placed. Evidently, the curator had been trying to lean into the fun mystery of the display. Adam looked at the strange round eye of a sea urchin, the tangle of dry seaweed and jars of pickled fish, the bits of china and ivory cases worn into soft organic shapes, and then he turned again to the clean, sharp lines of the Sphinx. She didn't look like she had come from the sea. The old man in the tweed cap entered the way Adam had come. Still seeming reluctant to stray far from the walls, he smiled amiably at Adam from over the Sphinx's head, and after pausing to examine a set of jasmine charms, moved on through another door. Adam looked again at the face of the Sphinx. Two impossibly blue eyes stared calmly back at him. I think I stumbled a wee bit there, but got most of it out.
Fabulous, well done. So, congratulations, that's awesome. And I'm sure that everybody now is going to be absolutely delighted to go, we won't know what happens. So that's a perfect cliffhanger for them to just take and go and get.
I was thinking it's quite a nice one, actually.
Exactly, a good opening chapter. So thank you so much, Will, for taking the time to come and join me. I know you've got to go and rush off just now.
Thank you.
So we will see you soon, and congratulations again. Super proud of you. Well done. And you hope you've got your book there for you, and we hope that there'll be lots of good things coming for you in the future.
You too. And I hope everyone has a fantastic evening as well.
Fabulous. Thank you.
All righty.
Well, there we go. So congrats, can we just get a round of applause for Will, who's from his family over there. Yeah, it's just so sad. We've worked so hard for the last couple of years, and on the night, here we are. It's just one of those things. Sorry, I'm going to get some water. Tim, do you want some water? Are you all right? Can you have some water? Right, okay. We'll just bring round the back, sorry. Right, now, can we talk to you, James?
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah. When do you want to start?
So, what I'd like to know then is, tell us a little bit about this book of yours then, The Vengeance of King Martoon.
Okay. Well, the story was pure based on, childhood reminiscence where I've bonded with this character, Robin. He was like a long-term friend in my mind. Oh, yeah. Thank you. So I was saying he's like a friend that bonded with me for all those years. He's a long-term friend.
Yep.
And to say this by the heart, I wish Robin the best of luck. And King Martin, of course, as the villain. I wish both of them the best of luck. Basically this story is it's about two enemies. Well, let's say there's a hero who seeks justice and another one that seeks greed. Robin here seeks justice and faith. King Martin only seeks the greed. So is there anything else you want to ask me?
I would like to know then, where did the inspiration for Robin come from?
I'm trying to think back in time. Well, do you remember when you were a kid and I used to have those teddies? Do you remember? Aye. When I was playing around with them, it made me, motivated. It motivated me. So I spoke to them. And that's how I developed a very special relationship with Robin.
Yep.
And things went on from there to getting to know him. And yeah, it's pure emotional having to talk about this. Ever since I was a child, it's as far as I can remember from my childhood reminiscence, it was just not easy to talk about. But now I'm here talking about it, expressing my mind.
Wow.
Makes me so happy.
Great. I'm pleased that it does. And you've got a whole lot of other characters and different people that you've been developing, haven't you, for other stories and things that have been around for a long while for you?
Yeah, some recent and some for a very long time. There's just a lot. There's a project I'm going to make. It's a big book. It's called The 14-Year Gang, and I've told you this that it's a big project. I don't mean one of those mini stories. I'm talking big. It's a big destiny for not only Robin but two upcoming characters. And
I'm so proud that we've actually maybe just been a little part of that journey to kind of bring it along. So that's great.
It's absolutely, yeah. It's absolutely. I'm grateful for all gratitude that I'm here. Everybody is here. My friends are here. My two best friends are here. And my third one still has to come by. I'm very grateful for Callum, this whole indie office world, and I'm grateful for the people who motivated me.
Well, you helped keep us motivated as well, James, so it's been a joy actually to work alongside you. Would you like to read us a little bit then? I think everybody's now going to want to know, can they hear a bit? Because obviously Will said you've created a new genre. And I think you have, because you've just got a really wonderful use of language.
Yeah.
That Singler had great fun, didn't you, when Singler was working on the book to help kind of edit it. So do you want to come here and read it?
Yeah, I would like to stand.
Fabulous, right? You come over and come and stand up here.
Can everybody hear me? Yeah.
You probably will be able to.
Yeah, I'm just going to page 37. Yeah. I'm just getting to the juicy part, so. Yeah. Yeah. 37. Right, this is it. Okay. The creature stopped as the mimic sound was heard. Robin continued to repeat the sound multiple times. Eventually, the sound stopped with an abrupt silence. A few minutes in, Robin stayed his ground as long as the creature remained in its ground position. And then Robin respectfully accepted to leave it some space for a while. An hour had passed and nothing had changed until a bright interruption shone onto him. There also he heard shouting and finally realised who was out for him. His father stood opposite with a belligerent posture. his fists gripping firmly together, getting ready to grab him and take him away into the house. "Son, what on earth are you doing out here?" Robin's father screamed. "It's not what you think it is," Robin pleasantly apologised to his father. "In a situation like this, son, are you really wanting to play games with me at this time of the night?" shouted his father with anger. Robin and his father kept arguing over the scenario. He began to urge his father to smooth the noise. "Just you wait until your mother hears about this, son," yelled his father and roughly yanked his arm. At that moment, something popped up at the bushes. "What the heck was that?" Robin exclaimed. His dad stared behind him. "You in the house right now." Suddenly, Robin abruptly sees a mysterious crowd of shadows surrounding him and his dad. "What the? Who are you? What's your name? And why are you in their territory?" interrogated Robin's dad. "I'm not here to have a feast with a couple of ignorant idiots. So why don't you let us visit your little pitfall land of yours?" said the mysterious creature. "You need to ask your mayor. He'll be the one to ask." "I'm just a citizen of this state," Robin replied. After a moment of standing around, the creature came forward out of the shadow. It had a black feather crown at his forehead. It had a long black and yellow stripy tail with a fan blade at the tip end. He was covered in cherry red fur. "I'd be acquitted at this point, but you just held the wrong person," said the creature with a little irony. "What is this, a game or something? I'm not going to sound the alarm if you don't take any more steps," said Robin's dad. And then the creature and its minions slowly began backing into the forest that is one of the ends of the town district. "Better be ready. You've got an hour to gather the whole town, including your leader. Trust me, son of yours will see the tapestry of your skin under the grave of what used to walk on its two legs." Then the creature faded away into the forest. Robin raged with anger at himself and the creature. "You're dead to me, Robin," shouted his dad, and then walked off to sound the alarm. He started to punch his fist onto a brick wall with all his anger and stress, despite the fact the creature got away because of his drunken father who messed up his plan. The alarm went off. Everyone gathered up there at the assembly. "Listen, regarding to our festival celebration this year, unfortunately, I just got told that a lot of intruders are preparing to raid our town," announced Robin's dad. The mayor suddenly ran over to him. "I heard it all. I'm going to make an urgent negotiation with the army force to come." The mayor quickly hopped away in panic. An hour has passed. Everyone still waited on the army for their rescue. Out of nowhere, a red fire fog explosion appears in the forest. Everyone started to panic. "Where are they?" said the mayor. The intruder crowd began running through the fog towards Guntor's Hill. They arrived in the town exactly on time. "You just had one chance to get prepared. I see this isn't the case. You will die under the insatiable majesty's last discern." All the red furry creatures began laughing in sight of a chuckle. "That's pathetic. I thought I met my rival yet." "You seem to be a threat to us all," said the red creature. All of a sudden, trucks and helicopters arrived behind the crowd. A man stepped out of the truck with haste. "Stop in the name of the enforcement," said the stranger. Everyone began running outside the town. However, Robin didn't run. Instead, he stood his ground. "So, you must be the one to vanquish. Let me introduce myself," said the red creature. The stranger abruptly interrupted King Martin. "Right? Don't remember me? Well, Andrew's the name." Robin looked shocked with confusion. Soon, a mysterious crowd began raiding Guntor's Hill. Everyone began running into the forest far up ahead. Robin began running as well. Unfortunately, he realised he's lost in the middle of a war against those nasty intruders. Robin followed everyone else as he ran with the folk. he saw the man, Andrew, who stood protecting Gunter's Hill with a bunch of other soldiers. He kept running as fast as he could until he reached up at the hill. King Martin's minions surrounded them, making them unable to escape their trap. Robin halted still. All of a sudden, Andrew, the man, came to rescue Robin from this disaster. Robin begins to notice the beginnings of a bond between him and Andrew already. Thank you.
See, there we are. Told you. They're all sitting there now wanting to know what happens to the rest of that story and what happens to Robin and King Martoon. And but you're not telling them. They've got to go and read the book, haven't they?
You've got to read it first.
Got to read it first. So thank you, James. That was amazing.
No problem.
So,
Absolutely.
Neve. Hi, Neve.
Hi.
You were described by Will as the enthusiastic, bouncy one that kept everybody going. Yeah, I think that's probably true. So can we talk to you about your book then?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. So tell us a little bit then about the flames of the past. What is it about?
The Flames of the Past is if the Scottish witch trials of the 16th century took place today. I've always had a wee bit of a fascination with the Scottish witch trials. It just always seemed something to ring to me. I never really understood why it was such a big part of Scotland's history and we never really learned about it at school, or it's not really something like we talk about. But I'm much more of a contemporary writer. I like to write in modern day times and things. But when I started looking into it, I kind of seen that not much has changed since then. We might not be burning women at the stake anymore, but we're definitely punishing women for being a wee bit too different, too promiscuous, or just something that society doesn't typically like. So yeah, I wanted to kind of write a story that would show that, and yeah. Thanks.
So we've got two main characters
Yes.
in your story. So we've got Chris and Isabel.
Yeah.
So where did the inspiration for those characters come from? How did you come up with them?
I think looking back, I've always enjoyed writing. It's always something that I've really enjoyed doing. And looking back into my past writing before working in Callum's Legacy, I have noticed that attributes of Isabel kind of creep up everywhere in my past writing. I think Isabel was just the cool girl that I always kind of wanted to be. She liked rock music, she wears leather jackets, and she kind of just takes everything in her stride, and it might get her in trouble sometimes, but I just totally always idolised her. So I think in Callum's Legacy I was kind of able to fully develop her. Chris, I wanted to write a character that was likeable but clearly flawed, and might not first appear flawed, might just seem as be like a nice guy and things, but I think everybody's got areas of improvement to work on, and I wanted to kind of highlight that in Chris.
Perfect. None of you, although sitting here, no, definitely not. So what's the plans for you beyond here? Because when we started, you were still at school.
Yeah.
And what are you doing now?
I am in my second year of English and creative writing at Macleod University. I always wanted to do writing, and it's always something that I really enjoyed, but just never really thought that it was kind of career-wise. Like, I just never really thought about it for that. But I think working in Callum's Legacy kind of put me on my path, and now I'm doing what I love at uni. So yeah.
Congratulations, we're really proud of
Thank you
you.
very much.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Awesome. So what's been the best part for you, do you think, being part of Callum's Legacy?
I think like you said, I was still at school when I started working in Callum's Legacy. At school I was just a wee bit lost. I didn't really enjoy school, just the social aspect in that, I didn't have the best time. But English and writing was always something that I was so passionate about, but I think through the school experience I did kind of lose that passion a bit. Then I was actually doing work experience in every industry you could think of, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, had no idea. And I think working in Callum's legacy, like I said, kind of put me on my path. It made me realise that there wasn't really another option, that I couldn't really do anything else. Like, English is where, it might sound cliche, but it is where my heart is. And yeah, and again, it might sound a wee bit cliche, but Callum's legacy just kind of helped me find myself a wee bit, like, kind of just made me have a wee purpose, especially through lockdown and things, with writing and things. It just kind of reignited my passion for doing something that I love, and yeah, it just made me realise a lot about myself. Obviously, I've made amazing friends, and I've had such good laughs and things, so cool. Callum's legacy came into my life exactly when I needed it to come. Yeah.
And we're delighted that you were there.
Thank you very much.
So I think now we need to hear a bit more of this story then, folks. Yeah, I think so. Are you up for coming up
I'm
here?
up for it, yeah.
Right. Do you want a glass of water up? How are you doing? Are you?
No, I'm good.
I'm just looking at these shoes.
Oh, I know.
I wish I could walk in those shoes again.
I know, it was a practice. I had to do a few practice runs.
Right, I'll leave you to.
Thank you very much. Let me get my page. So this is from the perspective of my character, Chris. I never really believed in magic until I met her. With a devilish smile and flecks of gold in her green eyes, the girl was bewitching. You could say she cursed me to an endless life of longing for something that I'll never quite reach. Or you could even say I was tangled under her spell. But I believe she opened my mind to the world around us. And whatever hell she may have raised, Isabel Finney was my taste of heaven. It was a feverish August night with only the glow of the streetlights tearing through the ebony of Edinburgh's cobble lanes when I first met Magic. The bloody night dragged on, pouring shots and cleaning glasses. It was a Tuesday night in August and the bar was desolate, apart from a few scattered flushed faces. I was pulled through the evening by a few pints and the thought of returning to my bed. The music played on repeat all night until the noise singed my ears and I shut the system down altogether. Nights at the bar were usually fun. I got to see everything. Drunk friends fighting, questionable dance moves, couples falling in and out of alcohol and just love. Beneath the faded lights, I began to really see people. Through observations, I got to know couples who were lost in each other's eyes, oblivious to the world, or lonely souls who were searching across the crowds to find a friendly face. But I was never that face. I too felt lonely. The only difference between me and them was that I was protected by a facade when I stood behind the bar. In my own Oakwood fort, I laughed and splashed a few drinks while I noticed every detail of every person who attracted my interest. My eyes crept along faces between the cluster, trying to gain a better understanding of each personality. I would scan their eyes, some masked by eyeshadow, others exposed. I found that the eyes said a lot about a person. But tonight in the bar, I didn't see anyone. There was no intriguing ambience surrounding anyone that night, so I found myself drifting into boredom's arms. The job was only to get me through my last few years at uni, to which I'd be returning to in September. Working late nights weren't always ideal for early morning starts at uni, but I paid for my rent, books, and a few drinks at the Union. I was studying social anthropology at the University of Edinburgh, with no plans for the future. I loved learning, absorbing information about the world. Cultures fascinated me, but I felt like I was dragging myself through university. I feared it would be a struggle to survive the 2 years I had left. I had no job prospects, no ambitions. I was just a little lost. Despite the long shifts, working at the bar suited me fine. The hours were flexible enough. I was able to balance my workload, a social life, and earning an income. The tips were decent and the atmosphere was fun. Didn't really have much to complain about. Gary the boss let me away early that night. However, not early enough. A loud sigh escaped my mouth as I wrapped up in my jacket and saw the rain hit the ground like bricks falling from the sky. I stepped out and began to walk home. My eyes hung heavy as I made my way home from another long shift. The raindrops held onto the leaves above me, begging not to be dropped, but the leaves were not strong enough to hold their might, and like glass, the raindrops shattered on the stone. The trees hung over me as I shuffled hastily home. Tucked away under a hood, I kept my eyes on the ground, trying to dance around the falling pellets as if they would not see and hit me. The bitter air stung my cheeks, and I didn't dare look up to the moon as I knew I would take a swift punch from the wind. Darkness turned me into nothing but a silhouette jaunting home. With my red raw hands that had been bitten by the crisp of the frost air, I tried to adjust my hood to shelter me further.
As my eyes brushed my face, a neon red sign sparkled at the corner of my eye. The sign buzzed, like bees drawing honey. Having crossed this path 100 times, I was startled at this new sight. It excited me. Having acquired a sudden impulse for whatever was inside, I walked through the doors.
Fabulous. Well done, Neve. Excellent. So there we go. See, you buy one book and you get all these stories. Right. Thank you. Emma, can we talk to you now?
Of course we can.
So, Emma, tell us a little about what you have written in Callum's legacy book.
So The Flight of the Ladybird is a collection of poetry which reflects my personal experiences in life. I've always had a great fascination with space, so much so when I'm out with the dog, sometimes it's a clear night, I tend to lose my footing. So infatuated sometimes that I just wonder what it would be like to go there instead, peace and quiet. So my poetry is about feeling alien on this earth due to hardship and mental health. And so my journey through the planets within our solar system, including Pluto, is really ultimately a reflection of the reason I'd wanted to leave in the first place.
And your poems are beautiful. And not only, you write these wonderful poems, but you also are a very talented artist. And that's something else that you've been doing alongside your poems now, isn't it?
Yeah, so aside from my job, I do kind of just small, I do commissions, Emma Taylor painting and poetry. So,
Taylor painting and poetry on Facebook, if anybody's looking for.
And so, yeah, I'm terrible at painting humans, people. I don't do portraiture at all, but I really like painting animals, landscapes, houses, little houses is one of my favourites to do. And along with each painting, I make an effort to find out all the nitty-gritty bits and pieces that are behind the picture, and so I want to make the poem as personalised as possible.
It's lovely, it really is.
Thank you.
So can I ask about the Ladybird?
Yes.
Why is the Ladybird then doing where does the Ladybird come from?
So the Ladybird is
Emotional. Yeah.
I've always loved ladybirds. They're beautiful little souls. On my grand's first death anniversary, it was in December, and I just in my bedroom, one had paid me a visit, which was a very bizarre time in December. You don't expect. And so ever since, I'd had a fascination with them when I was younger as well. They're symbolic of presence of positive spirit, and they are symbolic of new beginnings. And there's not many left of them in this world, so I think the flight of a ladybird is important to me for that reason.
And this whole connection is absolutely wonderful. So do you think you could read us some of your poetry?
I could do, but it'll need to be sitting down.
That's all right. We'll let you sit. That's okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Is this okay? You're good. Thank you. This is goodbye. I'm writing this to tell you I'm leaving. Don't go looking for me to make sure I'm breathing. I wasn't, but I think I can now. I never asked nor wanted for much. I'll ever so dearly miss your sentiment and touch, though I beg of you for peace. Time has been exhausted for the body which I've lived on lease. I gathered some resources for my journey. I won't need oxygen nor gravity, though I leave behind the weight of the insufferable insanity. I carry my soul in my jigsaw memory, peace in an untouched world. This is goodbye, but this is not where I end. Mercury, Part 1. Another mother resides on the grounds closest to the sun. The irony, she always seemed to be connected to the star, away with the light and giving lost souls a sense of direction. But it burns. The jurisdiction of earth is in her hands. Whom did not require to be revolved around? Mercury holds the lost messages of life, messages which gift you with a subtle visit, need you notice their presence. Mine's was a ladybird, in the comfort of my bedroom on the cold nights of December. That cold night in December, funnily enough, it's a sign. Not all are benevolent. Who is? I was always superstitious, a bit of a dozy cow, really, gullible, inclined to take what you want as you do. Melancholy mind games or fulfilling fate. Nonetheless, you noticed. Part 2. I'm not afraid of dying. I am afraid of growing old. It isn't fair, is it? Had I just a few more years, your memory still intact, and not having to accept the fact that it will always be too late. You reached past me for whatever you saw. She saw something. We saw nothing but hospital walls. And just like that, she's gone. I would give you my favourite paintbrush, and we can cover over the grey areas. Which dimension has the dementia got you in right now? Perhaps we could paint you a way out. My name is Emma. No, I'm not the waitress. I'm Lynn's daughter. I'm pleased to meet your acquaintance, Emma. You're a beautiful girl. I love you, Gran. Thank you, Mum. I feel you're with me all of the time, and I have a feeling that it's your fault that I failed every attempt to try to end it all. And thanks for that, by the way. She left for Mercury many moons ago. I hope you got your memories back, but that I'll never know.
Wow. There you are. You see, we told you could do it. I mean, isn't that just amazing? Amazing poetry. Well done. You can relax now. Yeah. Okay, how are we doing for time? Right, so. Sorry? Oh, we're going to move the mic. Move the mic over so we can. Thank you. Stick that close to you then, Gabriel. Is that okay?
Yep.
Yep, okay. So can I speak to you now, Gabriel?
I suppose so.
Yes, we see, we've kept the best till last. That's what it is here. So, tell us a bit about the dragon's blood. How did this story come about?
Well, I was thinking, what is fun to write about? Dragons and humans. So why not put dragons with humans?
Yep.
And I just randomly put them together.
You randomly put them together. And so one of the main characters in the book is called Som. And Som developed from one of the very first exercises that we did with you all. Can you tell us, can you remember what we did?
We were making stories from random with names that we pulled from a hat, and I got Blossom. So I couldn't be bothered to make a new name, so I just took the Som out of Blossom.
Yep. So Blossom became Som, an Emil character instead. So that was, yeah. And Som has a twin brother.
Quilo, yes.
Quilo, yeah. So we have Som and Quilo, and we have the evil
Abaddon?
Abaddon, yes, the evil Professor Abaddon. So what has it been like for you then to be part of Callum's legacy with this crew and working through this, creating this book?
Mostly surreal, because half the time I'm not sure if this is happening.
Yep. And Gabriel's mum saying, yep. And yeah. So what did you enjoy most?
The food.
Yep. Yep. We just knew if as long as we kept feeding you, we would get stories out of him. That was the thing. So, yeah. So that it was good to have everybody together. That was the great part. So, would you like to read a bit of your book yourself?
Yes.
You would. Do you want to sit there and still read, or do you want to stand here?
Stand.
You want to come and stand, right? Okay. I know. I'm really, really. Will I take that? Right, no, this for you. Do you want some water? Are you okay?
Yes, please.
Right, okay.
Thank you.
I'll put it in there for you once you have a drink. There we go. Thank you. Right, I'll stick it in.
Thank you. In the bunker below the mountains, close to the village of the freezing sun, the lab and base of operations of Professor Abaddon. Beyond the scorched door in the icy wasteland lay a hulk of a man whose scaly skin is covered with ice from head to toe, but with flames searing through all his joints. He's wielding a sword that seems transparent but is glowing with both magic and with the magic energies of fire and ice. The man is breathing hard with exhaustion, having fought half of Abaddon's army getting to the bunker. Abaddon himself is a tall, pale, skinny man whose head is surrounded in strange, dark glow of swirling energy. He turns from his lab table to face the man in front of him, and said in a tone that both dry and smooth at the same time, "So, the famous Magnus Blaze has finally made his move. Or should I call you Mighty Dragon Warrior instead?" Abaddon's black energy swirls around his head and morphs into a smug smile. "You are finished, Abaddon." Blaze roars as he raises his sword, ready to incinerate him. "Your evil plans will never succeed. Your army is defeated, and it is time for you to die." Abaddon calmly walks towards the Goliath of Magnus Blaze, with his grace and ease of a predator who didn't want to rush his food. Magnus raises his sword with a pulsing with fire and ice energy, thinking, "Why is he so calm? He must know that he cannot escape death." Blaze swirls with the sword towards him. Abaddon, the fire energy glows and erupts from the edge like lava. The ice energy shoots from the tip of the sword like blue lightning. Magnus swings the sword around his head, combining the fire and ice energies into one deadly force, and a mighty crash. He plunges the sword towards the heart of Professor Abaddon. Almost. Fire and ice explode in a huge ball of fire that fans out, destroying everything in the room. As the building shudders and the air clears, Magnus steps forward. You only have yourself to blame, Abaddon. I tried to reason with you, he says as he lays the sword down, totally drained of energy. But where is Abaddon? There's no sign of him. No shattered bones, no blood, no charred flesh, nothing. Magnus stood still, unsure of what had happened. He closes his eyes and tries to feel for Abaddon's energy. Suddenly, from the edge of his awareness, he notices a surge of energy. Too late. As the energy pulse flows through Magnus's thoughts and scales, and seals him into a prison. From within his own mind, he feels his life fire dim, his body unable to respond, and the world go dark as Abaddon's laughter echoes in his ears. No, he cries silently. With his life force drained, he summons every ounce of strength and sends out a beacon of thought, energy, to the only people who can save him and the planet. Psalm, Krilo, it is your time. Awaken to your power, my sons. Learn your heritage. Unleash the dragon. The world needs you. That's all, folks.
Awesome. Well done, sir. Well done. So I think, we've sort of come to the end. I just want to say, has anybody got any questions? We can have a couple of minutes if anybody wants to ask our young authors a question. Yes, sir.
Is there going to be like a part 2 to any of the books?
Oh, is there going to be a part 2? Well, we've got to see. Are we going to write some more stories? Is that the plan? There could well be. Watch this space. Oh. That was me. Anybody else? Anybody? Helen.
Emma, do you think you would ever produce artwork and poetry for the next book?
Yeah, I would, absolutely.
There you are. Good to encourage. Somebody else had a question? Yeah, you got. Is there going to be food? Yeah, there is. Yeah, there's fine. There's tea, coffee, and cake just in a few minutes. Is that your sister, Gabriel?
Yeah, makes sense.
Time for one more. Anybody got another question? How can we finish with that? That's it. There's got to be food. So can I just say, absolutely from the bottom of my heart, this has been a really emotional journey for me too. Callum would absolutely have loved this. He would have loved the energy that you guys have brought to each other, the encouragement, the support, the friendship, and it's been a joy for Sinclair and I both to be part of this. Tonight, you talk about signs, Emma. So tonight when we were actually driving, we live in Largs now, we moved there last year, and when we were just driving, we just got into Bishopbriggs, and on the radio comes on the song, You've Got a Friend in Me, which, as Anne's, it was a song that we played at Callum's funeral. It was a song that meant a lot to him for Toy Story, and I think it's just embodied exactly what you guys are all about. And we really thought that was him sending us a message tonight, that friendship is so important. And I just want to say I'm so proud of you all, and Will too. We'll talk to the chair, Will. I'm so proud of all that you've achieved, and thank you so much for being part of Calum's legacy. It's really made a great difference to our lives. And I think we just need to give them all a big cheer, so thank you. So you'll be relieved to know there is now tea, coffee and cake through the back in the cafe. We are going to get our young folk to set up the back and sign some books, but maybe we don't want everybody to all rush at once, because otherwise nobody's ever going to get tea and coffee. So if we're going to get the guys to set up the back, if some of you want to kind of go out and get tea and coffee and maybe pop back, or even grab them when they're in the cafe. But we just want to say thank you so much. Thank you for everybody for coming along. We'll be here for another hour or so, so hopefully we'll get a chance to chat to you informally. And yeah, and hope that you've all had a really good night. Thanks, folks. You've been awesome. So. Okay, right, folks.